Alright, I think we're online right now. I hope everyone is able to see everything and hear. So let's start to look. Alright, it's working. If I'm not mistaken, there we are. So it's my first stream here, so I'm going to explore this option here, and what we're going to do here is some basics about Chartjs, and we're going to create a nice simple plugin, probably an item that many people know. It's an arbitrary plugin, and what is very important with this is, and I guess it's probably the most useful, is if you have a question, put it here in the chat. I'll make sure I'll try to reply back to that. So what we're going to do is we just have a basic item here, and I'm going to use my standard boiler template here, which is chartjs3.com. Getting started, this specific link here, and if you scroll down, we're going to grab here the boiler template. It's going to grab all of this, copy that, and then put it in here, and let's cut out that one and put it in here as well. Going to save that here, refresh. So now we have a very basic Chartjs template here, and what we want to do is let's convert it into a line chart. So to do this, what we want to do here then is we go here, go to scroll down here, and just explore step by step a bit more about Chartjs. Here we have the type, and this type here we can convert it into a line chart. And if I save this, and then if I refresh, there you are, we get now a nice line chart. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an arbitrary line. An arbitrary line is just basically a line that we can put on here somewhere that we want to highlight a specific item. So to do this, what we're going to do here is we're going to scroll down and add up here in the options. We're going to say a comma plugins, and then we're going to put in here, let's say arbitrary plugin or arbitrary line. Then in here we say a constant arbitrary line equal, and then we're going to say ID, and this ID can be very useful if you want to color later on the arbitrary line. We can do that as well. We're going to say this ID here, and later on we'll be using that. And then next we want to draw the item. So to draw the item here, we have to wonder, first of all, where would you like to draw? Would you like to draw here, there, or anywhere else? So luckily this is quite easy because it is based on the index number, and all we need to know is the index number on the X scale, and then draw the line here. So let's look at this. We're going to say here, and by the way, this is the timing of this, and for the timing, do we want to draw it on top or behind, for example, the line chart here? Well, in this case, I just want to highlight it at the very back, so I want to make sure that this line here is still visible if we have the line at the very back. So this one will overlap the arbitrary line. So I'm going to say here before datasets draw, and then we can say chart arcs, and then let's put in here the plugin options. And these three are all arguments, or basically objects in its own right, and we can use them. And this plugin option is very important if we later on want to have like these professional plugin structures, where you can put in here, for example, we have here the plugin, and we can select a color without touching whatever we have in this block here. So that's very nice. So what I'm going to do here is a constant, and I'm going to say here we're going to use here object destructuring. I'm going to say it equals chart, and this is just the chart object. So if we do this here, do console log, like that. As you can see here, this is not what I want to do. But what I want to do is I want to grab this here, put it in there, and just look what we have. Save, refresh, open up developer tab, and you can see here it loads multiple times because of the animation. However, this is just the chart object, and the chart object consists basically all the information, because the chart object that we have here is basically the reference to my chart here, but we are now within the chart itself and in that specific canvas. So by the way, if you're new here, just you can put a question in here, or if you have a question, just let me know. So I'll just also indicate it here on chat. You have a question, let me know. All right, so interesting here. I see the chat is not working. I realize. So, all right. So I'll just check here what's going on. I'll just put in here. If you have a question, let me know. All right. So sorry about this. This is my first live, and I guess how to use this is really horrible. But let me just continue on. So let me continue on with the object here, because I want to make sure you understand this, because this is many people struggle to understand. So here we have basically all the objects here, which is related to the my chart object here. So this is why we do an object destructuring, because it's basically the chart object. So the object destructuring is basically splitting the chart or the object into multiple pieces. So what we need here, if we're going to create here, and I see here a question or a comment, thanks for the live. Well, you're welcome. I hope you enjoy it. This is my first live, so I'm trying my best to learn this new way of explaining and having a new way of communicating with all the viewers. So we have here this object here, and what I want to do here, because this is the object destructuring, I want to split out certain items, which is the CTX. And the CTX is very important, because the CTX is basically this item here, which allows us to draw in the canvas. So that's number one. For this chart, what we have more is if we're going to create the arbitrary line, what we can do here is, let's see, here we have here the chartArea. ChartArea is as well very important, and we're going to say here the top, the bottom, the left, the right, and the width and height. So what are these exactly? Well, let's look at our chart here so far. Let me close this. Basically, if you want to draw a line from top to bottom, we need to know the coordinates of these. So what we want to do here is basically getting the chart area, and the chart area is within these 4 lines basically, where we draw the chart itself. So what we want to do then is we want to know the top coordinates, which is the pixels of the y top, and you have here the bottom, which is the pixels of the y bottom, and we have the left and the right side, same story, pixels of these, and of course the width. The width would be indicating from this point all the way to that point, excluding the space that we have here and the space at the bottom. So, oh well, I see here another comment here. Just wanted to say, let me give this. So I just want to say, great job on the channel. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I hope, by the way, if you have any topic ideas or things that you want to know about Chartjs, put them in the comment section. I will make sure I'll list them, and then eventually those ideas will be separate videos as well. So I'm happy you're enjoying it. So what we're going to do then is, well, we have here the width and the height in pixels as well. So let's start to do here, and I guess what we need here as well is this scale, and I need here specifically the X and Y scale, and these are, well, let me just show you in the console log. I'm going to put that in there, and we're going to say here the X. If we have here the X, we have access to the entire scale that's being drawn in here. Let me open up this. There you are. You can see here we have all of this information here, and basically what we want to do, if we want to draw a line from up to bottom, we need the top and we need the bottom as well, but we need as well the X coordinates, and the X coordinates are from left to right, but for example we need here from one of these index numbers that we want. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we're going to say ctx.save. So let's start to draw something. So we have ctx.save. And I'm using ctx.save is because we want to make sure that we have the default setting saved if we want to restore or reset it. This is very important. Sometimes you have like colors or the lines are bleeding over to other elements on the canvas, and this is what we try to avoid. So what we're going to do here, and what we're going to do here now is ctx dot, and let's give the, we're going to draw a line. So we're going to say a ctx dot line, and we're going to say a I guess the stroke style, because we want to have a color, and the stroke style could be, for example, here red. I'm going to make a red color in here. So we want to have a red color from top to bottom. So then we can say here ctx dot, and then we have here the line width and how many pixels do we want to have it? 3 pixels. And next what I want to do is here the ctx.move to. And the move to is the one that consists of an x and y coordinates. And what we want to do here, and this is very important with the x and y coordinates, is the starting point, because it's like a pencil on a piece of paper. Where will we start with the line? That's the starting point. So we could do it, for example, if I want to do it on Wednesday here. So we're going to start from here at the very top. So we're going to say this here, the x coordinates here, and we have the y. Well, the y is really very easy, just by getting the top, put it here. But then the x is basically what we need to know here is this index number, if we want to do it on Wednesday, but then convert it into a pixel number. So we know the index number is this, but then we need to convert it into a pixel number. Chartjs, and let me close this one up. Chartjs knows exactly how to do that because they have a built-in functionality for that. So to do that, what I want to do is here then I'm going to say here, console log, I'm going to use this built-in function. We're going to say x, and the reason why I'm allowed to use here the x here is because we have the scale here with the object destructuring, because this is the x scale. So we're basically saying here, go to the scales x, or more specifically, if it would be in here, somewhere down, in here in the scales, and if ever there would be an x here, basically it's in there, but that's here in the computer language, so it understands it immediately. And now I'm going to say here, get pixel for the value, and this is one of the APIs Chartjs provides. And then what is the index number? Well, if it is Wednesday, that's 0, 1, 2. So that's number 2, index number 2, because a array is 0-based calculation. So we say here number 2, and there we are. So if I save this right now, let's open up the console log. You can see here we get the coordinates already. So that's number 2 will be this one. All right. So now we have this. We can just grab this, copy this, put it in here, and then let's close that, save, refresh. All right. So now we have the first one for the move to, and now I want to have the ctx dot. And I'm going to say here line 2. And what we're going to do here is basically we're going to connect this line, or start to draw from this dot to here. However, remember, these commands here are intention to draw. An intention to draw means it wants to draw it, but it doesn't draw it yet. However, we know we want to have a straight line down, so we're going to grab this, put that in there, because we will not move our left and right, or x value, but we will move to the bottom here. Luckily, that's quite straightforward because we have the chart area here, the bottom, put it in there. All right, so once we did this, I'm going to say ctx dot stroke to draw the item, save, refresh, and there we are. So you get this, and at the same time you can see we get this bleed over effect here. So this is what we really want to avoid. So how do we do this? Well, remember we had the save here, the ctx.save. So what we're going to do here is ctx, and then we're going to say here restore, and that's one of them, but probably it will not fully work. And the reason why it doesn't fully work is because we create a line here, and this line is basically a line that is built on a shape. So we created a shape here, but this shape doesn't understand that the line here is independent from this here. So what we're going to do now is the following. We want to make sure that this is a new shape. We're going to say here ctx dot begin path, and this is just all canvas code. So if I save this as a begin path, refresh, what happens now is it will understand that this is basically a new shape and it works. So what is quite interesting now is we could move this a bit more. We could say, if we would change this to number 3, save, refresh, we're now starting to get different positioning on this. So this can be quite interesting because maybe you could make all kind of unique shapes, or for example you want something else. We want to have maybe a zigzag shape. So we go from here, let's go up, and to go up here just say here top, and we do the same with another bottom here. So we say here number, I guess number 4. We say here the bottom. So if I save this, refresh, there we are. So we get this here, and you can see here we have these joints that we probably can change as well. I don't know on top of my head. I don't know what's the exact term. Let's say CTX at line join, and then I think it's my turn if I'm not mistaken. Save. Oh, okay, that is already. Maybe it's but. Alright, I don't know yet. I guess it's maybe it's in there. So it's line join or join line. It's one of them. I will look for it later on probably. So we have this one here like that. So what we could do as well, because these are just lines. This is an arbitrary line if we have this, but you could do all kind of shapes. What's also interesting, and this is basically what you want to do with Chartjs, is maybe draw something specifically in there to highlight something. Let's draw a background color here. Since we already explored a little bit about the chart area, I think it would make sense, because this is such an important topic, and not understanding this, you will miss the opportunity of so many other options on this. So what I want to do is two things. We're going to make this chart area so we can start to work on some background color, but also I want to have afterwards, I want to explore this item here so you understand this as well. This is very useful, so your plugin will look very professional. So let's start to do this. Alright, so what I'm going to do here now, let's hide all of this. We don't need all of that, but I want to make a shape here. CTX. And then what we want to do here is I want to have a rectangle. Fill, but I want to have the color for the rectangle. And let's say here this will be red. Alright, so we have now this red style. Then we're going to say here fill rec for rectangle. And here we have basically the x coordinates, the y coordinates, or basically the x position, y position. And then we have here the width and then the height. Alright, so with this we can start to play around, and we have basically all these coordinates here will cover it basically from left to right and from top to bottom. So we can do this quite quickly right now by saying here, where do we want to start? We could start basically on this point by saying here left, or we could say here this value index 0. It's basically the same thing. So I'm going to show you. Let's put this on index 0. Let's say here for the y, I want to start at the very top. So we're going to start at 18. So we're going to say here top, which is basically that. Then we have here the width. So the width is not the bottom. It's basically the pixels. Sorry, the width is on the right side here, right? But it's not the right here, but it's the width in pixels. Basically, pixels from this point to there, how many pixels is that? So for that, that's why we have here the width item that is already in the chart area. Put that in there, and then let's put in the height as well. I guess that will make all sense now. So we're going to say here height. So if I save this, refresh, all right, so we get this here, and of course this is red, so it's not really a very appealing item. Let's do here light gray. Save. There we are. All right, as you can see here, as I started before, was with the before datasets draw. So we could do also after datasets draw, and what will happen then you will be on top. So this is very important if you're going to make this plugin, and you use one of these before or after dataset drawing items. There's also a after draw, but I don't recommend after draw. And the reason why I don't recommend after draw is if you have the tooltip, you don't see the tooltip anymore because it will be basically overlapping. So that's why avoid after draw. Just use the before or after data sets draw. That's what I would recommend most of the time. All right. So we have this here, but this is here hard-coded, and I can imagine if you have users or you create your own plugin, you don't want like these hard-coded in the plugin, or at least you don't want the user to touch this. What you want the user to do is just go down here, and we say just after the scales here, we're going to say your plugins, and then have here, for example, if you have the dataset plugin, sorry, not the dataset, it's the data labels plugin. It's like data labels. Like that, and you do here something. So what we want to do is exactly the same. So luckily, if we go up here, we have this option here, which is called the arbitrary line. This is basically the ID. And we have here the plugin options. So this plugin options is basically saying go into options. So that's the first one here. So in the options, and then it will understand that the arbitrary line would be basically the namespace, that's the right term, the namespace here. So then in the plugins, this would call the arbitrary line. And then within here, we could say a color, and we put in here blue, for example. So if I save this of course right now will not work because we didn't connect it. So this is very important. So let's start to connect that one. So how do we connect that? So basically here, I'm going to remove this, and then all we're going to grab here is the plugin options. And you can give it any name you want here, but whatever your name is, be consistent with it. Before usually you call it plugin of options, but I might thought that would be too confusing. So plugin options is probably a bit more better. Then we're going to see a dot, and then we're just going to grab the color. So in here, you see we're skipping the arbitrary line namespace. And the reason why is it will understand that this will be connected with this ID here. So if we scroll down here, then it will grab this one here. It should grab this color. So there you are. So now we have this, and this makes it a bit more professional where you can control almost anything here. So let's start to look at something else here. So for example, this here, we could change this value as well. So we could put in here any value if we want to have, for example, here a number, and then here we're going to say here it's a string number 5, or let's say 4 or 3. I guess 3 would be fine. So we're going to change that one in there as well. So what we're going to say here, plugin options dot, and then we're going to grab our, what is that, the number. So if I save this, refresh, there you are. So now if you look very carefully, we're overlapping a little bit outside of the canvas or even outside of the chart area. Why does this happen? Well, the answer is basically this. Remember we had here these 4 values, and one was the width. The width is in pixels. So what we have to do here basically is to calculate how much is the pixels from here, and we have to calculate the difference for that one. So that's a bit tricky one for me. So let's see how we can do that one quickly. So what we need to do here is, first of all, we need to know what is the pixel number of this. Let's put that in here as a console log. So we're going to grab this one. And then what we can do here is, I guess we can do it, if you have the console log, we will see here for the, not the right side, sorry, the width. And I think this one will be slightly different. If I open up this, we get here the numbers, hold on. Alright, we get an area, get pixel for value, width, there you are, misspelled. Alright, so we get these here. We need to calculate the difference between these two here. So how do we do this? So I have to just think about it quickly, because we had the number, and if that is the number, that's number 3, we have to do number 6 probably, and let's see what's the difference on that one. Alright, so we're going to do this. This will be number, what was that, the last number here, that's 6, index number 6, and then I see a comment. I will get back, get to the comment, hold on. And what we want to do here is, let's calculate this. We say constant start equals that, and then here constant end equals this amount. So what we have to do here is probably on the width, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to calculate the end, which is the larger part minus the starting part, and we should get then about 300 pixels exactly hitting the Sunday area. Alright, so now we have that. That looks quite nice. Let me see here. I'm seeing here a comment, but I have a hard time to read it. I guess it doesn't show fully. The y-axis value, can we set a string? Well, let's see. So if you want to set a string on the y-axis, what we have to do is what we say here is swapping the items. A scrollable list of the links. I see another one on how to implement a scrollable list of links in the tooltip. That will be very tough because the tooltip is drawn in the canvas. So by doing that, it will creating a scroll in there. I'm not 100% certain if that's possible, or it might be possible, but it will be tricky. Well, let's start to work with the y-axis value. Can we set it as a string? So I assume that we want to swap these items here. So what we can do, and I think that's probably what you want to do, is index axis, and then I'm going to convert this into y. So what we really doing is basically this x-axis is what we call a category axis. A category axis is basically the string values are in here. So we're going to swap them now with this y-axis, and this y-axis is right now set as a linear axis, meaning linear as numbers. So if I save this, so I'm going to swap the X with the Y, we should get a different type of chart here. And you can see this looks quite unique and probably a bit weird, but that's basically possible as well. All right, so let's look at that. So now we have this one here, and I'm just looking, all right, what could we do more that would be useful to know on for now? I guess, let's see here, we have most of it already covered on that. This is another item that I would probably recommend for everyone to study as well, which is the data structure. So data structures here, and let's convert this into a bar chart, because with bar chart you can do, for example, floating bars. And if you've seen one of my other videos, I have a video about creating how to create a Gantt chart where you can put in dates and then let them float. And this is a really nice one. So let's convert that one here. All right, so we're going to create now these bar charts here. So we have these bar charts, and this is probably most common. And let's hide these items here for now. I don't need this. So to do that, I'm going to scroll down and just comment out the plugin. Save, refresh. So what we want to do is we want to start at a certain value and then continue on till halfway. So, but we don't want to hit per se on the very beginning here. So with the bar chart by default, it's always hitting at the very beginning. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up here and we go in the data sets. We're going to convert this, and then we're going to say here, let me check if I am doing this correctly. I think we have to probably break it down like that. And I think we can even do it like this without the item, because we don't have to do it, put in the numbers. We can put in, or we don't have to put in an x-axis here and a y-axis, because we don't have to specify them both independently. Probably if I do it like this. So what happened now, if I do this, it should target probably here from number 2 all the way to number 6. And let's do them for all of them. So what I'm going to do here, copy this, paste that, paste that. All right, let's save this, refresh, and there we are. So now we have this here, and this here is of course not very appealing, and this here as well, not nice. So let's solve this, skip the borders here, or basically what happened here, we have this so-called border skip. Put a comma, we're going to say here, border skip, and we're going to set this on false. By default, it is set on true. That's why we have these borders here missing. But if I do this here, this works. But of course, you can see here at the right side, what we could do here as well is having some additional padding, because this becomes interesting if we work with dates. And I'm going to recommend you another video of mine. And let me just give me here some different random numbers, but I'm going to recommend the video how to create the Gantt chart series. So that's a really good one to watch. I covered many items of it. Let's put in this 9, say, there we are. So now we have this, and I can imagine, maybe you say, well, hold on, we have this here, but look at the very end, I want to have some space here. So what we could do, we can force a space on the, in this case, the x-axis. So this is what we call grace. We give it basically a bit more space than normal. Normally it would just hit the end, but now we want to have, like, let's say 1 tick additional. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here into the x-axis. We're going to say, if I'm not mistaken, ticks, grace, and just put in here a value of 1. If I save that, refresh, oh, that doesn't work, hold on. Is it ticks or tick? No, alright, my bad. Tick, or is it the grid? It could be one or the other. Oh, alright, it's just directly on the X scale itself, not on the tick or on the grace object. So here we have something, and that gives us additional space. So I hope you enjoyed this. What I'm going to recommend you, if you have suggestions and video topics, because currently I'm just trying to test out this format. If you have video topics, put them in the comments. I'll make sure I'll write them down and then put them on my list of videos. So, well, I see here some other comments. I love your videos. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying them. I'm just trying to help out, and my main goal here is to help people to get used to Chartjs and understand how to implement it as fast as possible on your projects. So this was just a very short live video, and I hope you enjoyed this all. And I'm sure that I need to improve a lot of my live videos, but if you do have some other suggestions, I'm very open to them. Just let me know as well. So that's it for this stream.